To my subscribers, all 137 of you, I've been remiss and neglected to stay on the path to reach my goal of 140 subscribers. Maybe this episode will push me over that goal line. Now, today on YouTube, there are so many people with their own shows, with their own names. The David Pakman Show, the Kyle Kulinski Show, the Jim Acosta Show, the Katie Fang Show, on and on ad nauseam. Which reminds me to remind you, always try to work some Latin into your daily speech. Sure, it's a dead language, but you'll be a sociable corpse. Now, I was one of the many who broke contact with family members over the schism that is Trumpism, or more aptly, they cut contact with me as I would not give up on the facts and consensual reality and not succumb to alternative facts that only exist in an alternative reality. I lost both of my sisters to this cult. Facts didn't matter. I asked them, You're going to vote for a convicted rapist? Really? To which she responded, I'm going to vote for who I think is best for this country. So clearly she thought having the rest of the world come to hate America was the best thing for the United States. But cults are difficult to understand, and this acronym may help. Convincing, unflinching, lacks transparency. Now, back in the 70s and 80s, I know that's so last century, isn't it? There were the followers of Sun Myung Moon and the Unification Church. They were called Moonies. And because of brainwashing, we all have dirty minds, undue influence, high-pressure tactics, and financial exploitation, and the control over the members' lives, it was considered a cult, which, of course, the leader denied. No leader wants to be accused of being a cult leader. It's just not a good look on the curriculum vitae. Hey, 2 Latin references in one day, so I can take tomorrow off. We have come to accept the shorthand, MAGA, to describe those who support Trump and Trumpism. But by the looks of it, America isn't getting greater. On the contrary, it has fallen in global status along with its currency. But because it's a cult, it is unflinching and would tell the passengers on the Titanic, it's like a weeble. It'll wobble, but it won't fall down. So there is brainwashing going on. My sister had Fox playing on TV all day long, and if not that, tuned into Newsmax instead of PBS or the BBC, which I continually tried to get her to try. I knew someone who called CNN the Clinton News Network, and he was too feeble-minded to come up with that moniker and probably heard it on Fox. Without Fox, Trumpism would have never succeeded. Without The Apprentice, Trump would have never taken the White House. It was the sheen of celebrity that suckered a percentage of Americans to believe that Trump was the character he played on that TV show. He was no more a successful businessman than Tom Hanks was an astronaut in Apollo 13. It was a role, a constructed character. Because originally, the producers couldn't find a real billionaire who wanted to do the show. They were too busy making billions. Trump was their last choice. Now, Trump had read Mein Kampf, at least the synopsis, and his takeaway was, if you tell a lie big enough, long enough, people will come to accept it as the truth. Because people would not believe that someone could have the impudence to distort the truth so infamously. Never tell that to a con man. Short for confidence man, because they first must gain your confidence before they betray you. Some of history's famous cons are as audacious as wearing paisley with stripes. One in particular was Count Victor Lustig. And this happened in the 20s. He read in a Parisian paper that the government had difficulty maintaining the Eiffel Tower and had potential plans for its demolition. So, posing as a government official, he sold the landmark for scrap metal to a group of scrap dealers. The first victim was too embarrassed to report the crime. But like a potato chip, old Victor couldn't stop at just one and repeated the sale with a second group of dealers who also fell for it before fleeing. In the 1820s, a Scottish soldier, Gregor MacGregor, claimed to be the cacique of a fictional Central American nation called Poyais. He convinced hundreds of people to invest their life savings in the made-up country and arranged for settlers to sell there, promising them a tropical paradise, like timeshare. The settlers arrived to find swampland, no infrastructure, and many died from starvation and disease. MacGregor escaped with the funds. Think Fire Festival, but 200 years ago. And with a thick enough Scottish accent, people aren't really going to understand what you're saying anyways. Now, India had Mithlish Kumar Srivastava, known as Natwarlal, repeatedly sold some of India's most famous landmarks, including the Taj Mahal and the Parliament House. His cons relied on forging documents and his sheer charm. He famously escaped from prison 10 times. Now, selling landmarks is one thing, but escaping from prison 10 times? Hell, they make movies about that kind of thing. Then there was Frederick Bourdin, who took on dozens of false identities throughout his life. And in one of his most infamous acts, he convinced a Texas family he was their missing son, Nicholas Barclay, despite having different eye color and a French accent. He maintained the charade for months, even fooling the FBI, but eventually a private investigator caught on to his charade. So, Texans will buy a lie so long as it's as big as their state, explaining they're leaning towards the Trump cult and con. Carlos Kaiser had a decade-long career as a professional football player without ever playing. He feigned injuries at the first practice, paid fans to chant his name, building his hype, and exploit people's desire to believe he was a great talent. He went as far as to fake confrontations with fans to get himself ejected from the game to avoid playing. George Santos must have read about Carlos and thought, I can do that 1,000,000 times better. These were great posers in history. And if there's one thing that Donald learned to do at a very early age, and that was pose. He knew what to do in front of a camera to keep it on him, the way a tick stays on a dog. But in this case, the faithful to his red hat are the dog, and he is the tick. Consider this. If a friend lied to you once, you might forgive them. The second time, you are faced with forgiving yourself. You know the adage, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, and I slash my own tires. Now, if that same friend told you 10 lies, would you believe him the 11th time? What if they told you 20, 30, 100? At what point do you realize this person is nothing more than a bullshit artist? Good art, we never get tired of looking at. So we continue to accept the art of shit and rationalize it by saying, it looks better from this angle. It's upwind and it smells better from here too. But the orange man in the White House is drowning us with lies. He has been clocked at telling over 30,000. And those wearing the red hat still think they will work as a life preserver. Or worse, they don't care that he lies and then become part of the con, part of the cult. There are some differences between cults and cons, and there are some big similarities. Both are highly similar in that their underlying mechanic both rely on deception, psychological manipulation, and the exploitation of individuals for the benefit of a leader or organization. So in this, clueless leader knows what he's doing. The psychological manipulation is instilling fear where there wasn't any before. Mexican rapists, caravans of immigrants, invading trans people, radical left communist lunatics. And he would say, the country is going to hell, which in itself is an anomaly, as the man isn't religious, but his audience is. Experts often describe cults as extreme, organized forms of scams, frequently headed by con artists. There's also some more similarities. A charismatic leader. Both often feature a narcissistic or authoritarian leader who demands unquestioning loyalty and acts as the sole source of truth. Check. Deceptive recruitment. Like a con artist, cults rarely show their true nature up front. They often use a front organization, such as self-help seminars, yoga classes, meditation groups, to lure in members. MAGA? Check. He was basically saying, if you support me, America will be great again. But he never said it will be great when X, Y, and Z happens. There is no endpoint. He just said, give me your vote and I'll give you what you want. Exploitation. Both aim to take something of value from the target, money, time, labor, or sexual access, while providing little or no real value in return. The grift, the sale of Bibles, gold shoes, watches, hats, coins, NFTs, contributions, and we all are aware of the sexual access he had helped himself to. When he spoke of grabbing women by the pussy and they let you do it, he was talking about doing that to children. A woman would slap the pig in the face if he did something like that. A child doesn't have that same sense of boundaries yet. Isolation and control. Both seek to cut the victim off from their support systems, family and friends, to increase dependency on the leader. In this, MAGA was cut off by friends and family who saw his behavior as abhorrent and beyond the pale. In my own family, they cut me off because they didn't want to listen to factual evidence like, you're going to vote for a convicted felon? Fox cut people off from reality, so they are also part of the con and the cult. Fox did not deliver real news, and they were sued and paid out $780 million for their lies. Then there's also love bombing. Initial recruitment often involves overwhelming affection and validation to make the target feel special and accepted, a tactic designed to lower defenses. Here, the con was taking their side. I will be the one fighting for you when nobody else will. I will be your retribution. Now, the differences are also succinct. The scope of impact, while con might aim to steal money and disappear, a cult aims for total, long-term control over a person's life, thoughts, and behavior. In this, MAGA is definitely long-term. The goal. A con is primarily financial. A cult, while often financially exploitative, is primarily about the leader's desire for power, deification, and control. Trump put out a meme with the Pope's hat on his head, and others think he was sent by God. Duration. A con often ends once the money is gone. A cult continues to exploit its member for years, often leading to deep psychological trauma. And here I'm afraid that this schism created by this man and his enablers will last for generations and not disappear after he's gone. In conclusion, a cult is a high control, long-term ideological con. The cult and con of Don. He will be the GOAT when it comes to con men in history and make the guy who sold the Eiffel Tower look like a rank amateur. Historians will take great relish scrutinizing Trump with all the enthusiastic scrutes of dissecting a frog, as both are cold-blooded, which leaves those who never bought into his scam I am hot under the collar. Not that a con man like Trump exists, as they have throughout time, but that 76,900,000 American citizens would get suckered a second time by a man who, under his leadership during the first time, over 1 million people died in America from COVID, more than all of the wars America has fought from the inception of this country. And that should burn your ass. Thanks for watching. Share it, subscribe, go out and dance naked in the sun, do whatever it does, and just do it well. Aloha.